Isaac Sarason is a skilled hacker, formerly employed by British Telecom-Sprint. When his health failed, Isaac did the only thing he could think of. He ran. A burqa-wearing doctor known as Fatima took pity on Isaac and helped him make his way to the mysterious Star X line. At the end of all hope, they found the Star X line and the slim promise that the enigmatic beings behind the Star X could save Isaac from the implants which destroyed his life. What do you do when those who saved you have recorded everything you are? What do you do when your every action is tracked by the Keylogger? Colbyjack.net is proud to present Firmware Keylogger, the third installment of Firmware by Colbytrax. Episode 44. That's right. Every last bit of information contained in this room in the form of models and objects was already in the system I ran myself on, half a city away in University Heights. This was not something I had done intentionally, but was a result of the immersive environment Eleanor had chosen. I had no doubts about who was truly in charge here. It was her decisions which determined which environment engine was used, and it was no doubt Eleanor who supplied the models used to represent the Rose Reading Room. The engine she chose was licensed by V Communities Limited, whose approach to programming immersive environments matched the method by which network content had been packaged since the birth of worldwide networks. The data for each object was sent to each participant system and held in a temporary buffer to be recalled as necessary. This made it possible for virtual environments to use a minimum of bandwidth and centralized resources. The truth of the current situation was that the simulation I stood inside of only existed on each of the 3 servers Eleanor, Jehoshaphat, and I occupied. The point of contact between us was actually nothing more than a network node which transmitted the differences between what had been in the room a millisecond ago and now. If nothing changed, then no data changed hands. "Are you still with us, Mr. Noir?" Eleanor asked. I was finding joy in the clutter around me, I said, stepping away from the hearth and spreading my arms to encompass the entire space around us. Eleanor continued to tap her fingers with that strange da-do-do-do rest, da-do-do-do-do-do rhythm. With each beat of her hands, she changed the arrangement of her 8 visible fingers. "Oh yes, we do take pride in our clutter, don't we, Jehoshaphat?" she said, as if there was nothing more important in the world to discuss. Jehoshaphat nodded in a manner which suggested they had an agreement about something. "Just yesterday I had the most wonderful conversation with your brother Jehoshaphat, Mr. Noir, about the importance of metadata to the consummate archivist. Do you have any opinions on the subject, Mr. Noir?" I turned to stare into her eyes. In my peripheral vision, I saw her fingers form the letter R in binary. I shook my head and tried to concentrate on not acknowledging where my attentions truly were. "I find metadata handy for keeping my music and video collection sorted. I really hate it when you get files without proper titles, album, and track numbers." I caught the letters A and M as I moved back toward the fireplace, which had so dominated our conversation. "Whatever an album is." "Oh yes, that is the most simplistic use of metadata. Here in the archives, we find that if a file doesn't have metadata, it doesn't exist." Eleanor spoke like a senior librarian educating a newly minted junior in the proper way to create a card catalog. "What most people don't realize is that the metadata, when provided with a link to the original file location, can serve as a highly portable, searchable database." I caught another A, and then a space, followed by an H. I continued the conversation, wondering where this line of reasoning was going. I didn't know if I should step off the script Eleanor appeared to be placing before me or stay the course. If it were a script, who were we performing for? So, what you're saying is that there are researchers who spend their time searching the metadata until they find what they're looking for and rarely call up the original data from the archives. Her fingers flashed an E, an N, a K, then an E and an R. What was she up to? I put the letters together as she continued to flash the binary for each letter over and over again with that confounded da do 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 rest, da do 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 rhythm. The letters spelt Rama Henker. I checked her finger position, verified that the extended fingers were ones and the curled fingers were zeros, as the inverse spelt negative Z Karen apostrophe Z Karen SZAT dot S Karen single quote ending double quote S Karen. I was sure that wasn't the message I was supposed to receive. From my research into Rama's life, I knew his last name wasn't Henker. His real name was a family name of power second only to the Koenig family, though of a mannish branch which retained a shadow of its former wealth with none of its attendant power. I nodded toward Eleanor's hands and forced a tight-lipped smile. While discussions of data storage techniques is a safe topic for mixed company, the truth is that I did not come here to discuss such tame subjects, I said as I paced before the hearth. Then what did bring you here, Mr. Noir? Eleanor asked as she pursed her lips. This was a game to her. What was she getting out of it? Did it matter as long as it didn't interfere with my investigation? A murder, I answered. The brutal death of a friend from before I became what I am now. Eleanor leaned back in her chair as if she were hearing of my investigation for the very first time. Oh, my! I hope it wasn't someone I knew. She looked toward the ceiling before adding callously, though the idea of an investigation is an interesting idea. I don't believe we have a department dedicated to that. She was playing a coy game, tempting me to break character and shake her until she told me what I wanted to know. But that would be not only inadvisable, but also impossible. If I made a move to hurt the web of data which comprised the being known as Eleanor, I was quite sure she would destroy me with no more thought than one gave a roach found crawling across their dining room table. There would be a flash of excitement and anger, followed by a dead roach and a period of mindless cleaning. In other words, no thought at all after the fact, except as an interesting anecdote to share with the electronic denizens which made up the StarX project. But then again, it wasn't one project, was it? You are a member of the stewards, if I remember correctly. How does that fit within the StarX project? I asked, trying to cut through her cloak of misdirection and obfuscation. Couldn't she just say what she meant and get it over with? It doesn't, she answered with a tilt of her head and an elfin smile. Was she tweaking her face to mess with me? I couldn't dwell on it. I am a bit behind on the organizational chart of all things Koenig. I walked behind her chair and forced her to look up at me. Would it be possible for you to paint me a picture of how things fit together? She smiled up at me, undisturbed by my attempt to use a physically superior position to my advantage. I had forgotten that no matter how much I broke taboos against proximity and position relative to another, it didn't matter. We were in digital land. Those tricks only worked in the physical world, where the mix of pheromones, body odor, proprioception, and a dozen other senses combined to trigger the fight or flight response. Besides, I had no idea if Eleanor even had a fight or flight response. Oh, I would enjoy painting you a portrait of our little organization. Eleanor held my gaze until I had an overwhelming desire to be in front of her, and not looming above her like a lecherous buzzard. Once I had arrived at a socially respectable position before the hearth, in accordance with rules I was vaguely aware of, distilled from a lifetime of costume dramas, Eleanor continued. There are 5 projects making up the Fernay project. She raised her hands from her lap and counted off on one hand. There is the StarX project, which is analogous to the recruitment and retention department found in any large corporation. She curled her pinky in a position which would be very uncomfortable in the flesh, but here looked merely odd. There are the stewards, of which I am a member, and which serves as the asset management section. She curled her ring finger over to match the pinky. There is the instrumentality, which is analogous to the research and development division found in any multinational organization. She curled over her middle finger and turned her hand slowly as if she were examining it for some flaw. And finally, she continued, there is the Koenig project, or Koenig as we like to call him, though there is more to the Koenig project than just old Koenig. But it is easier on us all if we view him as a single monolithic entity. She curled her index finger into her palm, leaving just her thumb standing out. She held her hand up and turned it once again as she examined her thumb in much the same way she had her index finger before laying her hands on her knees and tapping out her strange rhythm from before. She didn't repeat her finger manipulations, which spelt out Rama Henker only a few minutes before. What position would Koenig hold if this were a normal corporation? I asked. I knew the answer without asking. Eleanor saw through my questioning and teased me. Koenig and his partners in his project would be the top of the top, the board to which all others aspire, and Koenig himself would have the toppiest spot, most definitely upper management if you lack imagination. The Koenig project is the management board to which the 4 other branches report. I thought about what she had just said, and, as my special insights into the thoughts of my brother AIs also extended in some regard to Eleanor, I felt I knew more about her intent than her words carried. If I were to believe the series of vague feelings I received from her, then it was obvious Eleanor was telling the truth as she understood it. It was true then. There were 5 departments which formed up the cabal headed by the Koenig project, which was led by the digital ghost of Julius Koenig. She had given me the names and areas of operation for 3 of the 4 junior departments. Might the word Henker be the name of the remaining department? If it were, what was their place in the organization? Were they equals to Koenig, or simply a less junior branch, as, if I read Koenig correctly, everyone was junior to him and his plans? I searched the net rapidly for any reference to Henker. I did this with the same amount of effort one might use looking up a fact on a phone at a dinner party after someone said something interesting, but annoying. The only references I found to the word were scream metal bands dating back to the beginning of that genre of music, if one could call it music, and not just instrument torture. I could only assume the popularity of the name was the fact that it meant executioner in Deutsch, and was the easiest version to spell in that language. This talk of departments and divisions of labor and the Fernet project is all very interesting, but it doesn't tell me one thing, my dear Eleanor. I waited an amount of time suitable for a dramatic pause before I continued. It doesn't tell me why you committed treason. Eleanor affected an aspect of complete surprise. I don't know of what you speak, Mr. Noir. The file you gave to him. I motioned toward Jehoshaphat, sitting smugly in his red wingback chair. You gave Jehoshaphat here access to a document I am quite sure was intended to be used only by one individual, a little something titled The Survivability of the Koenig Project. Are you familiar with that title? Eleanor smiled as if the slipping of that little piece of data was no big deal. I am quite aware of that title, and I am very aware of the information I imparted to our mutual friend Jehoshaphat. Would you like to know why? She smiled her annoying Madonna smile, and I knew she wanted me to bait the information out of her. She wanted it to be a game played in a manner dictated by centuries of detective novels, movies, and television. A game I had to play along with. I'll bite. Why? I responded in an angry tone. She didn't respond. I allowed myself a moment to adjust my tone and ask, was it for revenge against Koenig and what he did to you? Did to me? She asked with a smile. Yes, I continued. It is obvious you underwent the Culpepper process through your creation, and that you retain the memories of the life you led as a real person. In the same manner I and my Urzat brothers do as well. So, it would be obvious for me to desire the destruction of Koenig and all he stood for, because he ripped me from my so-called real life. Would it also be acceptable for me to be rebelling because someone in the Koenig project ordered the death of my corporal form and the disposal of my body in the waters around Block Island Sound? The words flowed from her like honey, without a bit of irony. It took me a moment to realize what she had said. Are you saying Koenig killed your progenitor after your creation? I asked. I knew she believed what she had said, and that it wasn't part of the game we were playing. If they had killed her progenitor after creating her, and she was a success, what would they do to Isaac? It wasn't as if the beings who used to be Isaac Sarason were the poster boys for the successful implementation of the Culpepper method. Eleanor gave me a strange clothed-mouth smile before answering. Koenig didn't kill me, or my progenitor, as you like to say. That would be a different department. I nodded. A department without a public name would be exactly the type of thing a shadow government, such as Koenig, would need to accomplish his black bag work. He'd need a department which did the things only elite killers could do without anyone asking pesky questions. He'd need a group which would find a nom de guerre like Henker a cute but unneeded title. It was obvious now. Every king needed his executioners, and in the Fernay project, Henker did the job for Koenig. But why Rama? I let the question of Rama slide away and turned back to the matter at hand. Then why did you give Jehoshaphat the document in question? And why is it so important for him to know? I brought the document to Jehoshaphat's attention because, unlike you, he has no ear for truth. I needed to allay his fears. I had to keep him from fleeing or fighting in a mistaken effort to escape. Eleanor said in a motherly tone. And what truth is that? I asked. The truth that you, me, Koenig, his pet AIs, the wild simians, Samuels, Ishmael, and Semiel, we are all on the same side. There is no other side but that of the city and its future, and we are all a part of it.
Firmware Keylogger begins where Firmware Proxy ends, which in turn followed on the heels of Firmware Hijacked. Firmware Hijacked, Proxy, and Keylogger are all available in ebook versions from our store at shop.Colbyjack.net, Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, and Smashwords.com. Just search for Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. I'm the only one. A complete audiobook version of both Firmware, Hijacked, Proxy, and soon Keylogger is available for download through our shop as well. If you don't need any stuff, but would like to support our work, drop on by Colbyjack.net and hit the pretty little donate button conveniently located on the right-hand side of the blog roll. Firmware Keylogger is released under a Creative Commons, non-commercial, attribution, share-alike license. Do what you want with it. Just don't sell it, and always tell people where it came from. If you received this from a friend and want more information about Colbyjack.net and our split personality website, just drop on over to Colbyjack.net and select either the audio or visual side. The audio side carries our podcast, while the visual side carries our writings. Whichever side catches your fancy is fine with us. We're of two minds about the whole thing anyway. I do mostly Twitter, so if you do the tweets and want to follow me, I'm Colbytrax. That's Colbytrax. Thank you once again. Remember to be fabulous and have a wonderful week. Banjo. I can't hear any banjo. There should be some banjo in my monitor. Ready? Really? Push the button. Oh my God! We'll let Gregor out of his room. get him back. No. The base goes by the tree over there. The zombies go over by that big pile of brains. Oh, hi there. Sorry, didn't see you. We've been in a tizzy getting ready for the launch of Acme Tales. Don't put the demons by the demolition shed. 50 yards. Keep them 50 yards. You got them, okay? Okay, as you can see, we are in a bit of a mess here as we try to get everything in place for the launch of Acme Tales on the 1st of the year. 1 minute. Who let Gregor out? What is he waving around? A road flare? Well, get it away from him. Where was I? Acme Tales is a new audio fiction podcast where we focus on fiction. What? Gregor is taunting the demons? I don't care. Just get him back inside. Acme Tales is going to be an audio fiction podcast where instead of hiding away in the various ghettos of fiction, we embrace fiction in all its amazing complexity. No longer will literary fiction be kept away from the science fiction, the SF from the F. The mystery will no longer hide behind the classics. No, we will mix and match them along a theme which will change with each month. Those idiots! Quit chasing Gregor. He's just leading the demons to the demolition hunt. Get him a rotten apple. He'll eat that. Acme Tales will wander around the spectrum of stories and directions. Oh yeah, this is important. Acme Tales will be a paying market. That's right, we will pay for stories, though our payment is more of a token. Like $10 for a story up to 9,000 words. But at least we are paying. Idiots! Stop chasing them. The demo shed's on fire. Get the rain giants. Where was I? Acme Tales will be community supported, which means that if you like the shows and want to contribute so we can pay more authors, or better yet, increase our pay for the authors and staff, that would be awesome. And by community supported, we also mean that your name will go on the show you paid for. That's right. You aren't just a donator. You are a patron of the arts. Isn't that awesome? What was that? The rain giants were busy, so they sent the fire giants? Urgh! Run, you idiots, run! I have to go. Have a wonderful... It's going to blow! Have a wonderful day, and don't forget to subscribe to feed.acmetales.com to stay abreast of all the developments to come. Time to leap away from the explosion! Bye!